Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the owner and founder of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about controllingness and manipulation in relationships. So before I start, I want to start off with a disclaimer, and this is to say that I am not justifying anything I'm about to say in this video. I am absolutely not justifying or suggesting that any individual stay in a toxic relationship with anybody. If there's an unhealthy relationship, you must leave. But if you understand what happened post-relationship, this might be a really good video for you. So for example, if you're coming out of a relationship and you're like, oh my gosh, I was so controlled, I was so manipulated, or if you happen to be in a situation where for religious reasons or, conflicts with the kids, you're with somebody who's slightly controlling and manipulative, which we do not condone at all. But if they are this way, but they're overall a healthy person and they have this little surge of these behaviors in small doses in a specific area, and you're looking to resolve them, because in reality, most human beings have some kind of version of this, at least at 1 or 2 out of 10. And again, not condoning it, but there will be some tools in this video for how to sort of discuss and create change in these dynamics. Or if this is you and you find yourself sometimes being a little bit controlling in a certain area around the cleanliness of the home, or how often your partner goes out, or, things like this, we're going to have a conversation that's going to help you see, understand why at the root cause, recover from some of these things if you're coming out of a relationship where somebody who is very controlling and very manipulative, or have healthy discussions in your relationship if you or your partner have small versions of these behaviors around specific issues, so that we can create change. So, number one, before I start as well, we are launching our personal development school online, like the full online version, this September. I have been working really hard to get all this stuff out and get it organized and record a ton of online courses that are available to everybody. And the idea of these courses is that they are here to sort of like replace me in this role. Like, I've tried to make them as personal as possible for people who don't want to do one-on-one therapy, or who can't book a session within a given period of time. And so these courses include everything on self-esteem to all attachment styles, and the deep reprogramming around them, a whole in-depth course about your needs, how to understand and identify your core needs, your personality needs, your basic needs, and then your tertiary or like moment-to-moment needs. Courses on self-sabotage, procrastination, how to master your emotions, people struggling with depression, anxiety, conflict communication. We have so many courses. So we're launching our first big batch, and then we're having 3 to 5 come out every single month after September. So there will be this ongoing release of new content. These courses are amazing. Like, the content is really in-depth, really thorough. You've got workbooks, worksheets, processes, an online community or forum that's for everybody to connect from different places in the world, or if you're looking for individuals who are on the same path in your area, you'll be able to do that if you want to. And there will also be monthly webinars, sometimes bi-weekly webinars as well, just to answer all of your personal questions. And I'll be going through the forum as well, and I'll be answering questions. I'll be using questions that I see recurring as video content for the Personal Development School, just YouTube channel videos. And all of the materials come with things that involve reprogramming, strategies, charts, everything that's like super there to support your journey in personal growth and healing. So we've also made it super affordable for people. So we have individual courses you can buy for $97, and we have $49 course, $49 memberships for unlimited courses. So you can pay $49 per month, take whatever courses you want, and literally it's ongoing, unlimited. And there's all these other cool bonuses with the membership option. So that is launching this September. If we have like a crazy launch deal, so like there's no initiation fee, anything like that for September itself. And all the courses that you're purchasing as an individual course, all of it is 25% off if you reserve between now and September. So if you haven't already, go on the website, send me your email, which courses you want to reserve, or if you just want to reserve the membership fee with no initiation, that's perfect too. Connect with me online. You can literally just email Thais at personaldevelopmentschool.com. So now I'm going to get into all this exciting content. So first and foremost, I just want to remind you one more time that this is not about staying in an unhealthy relationship. This is about understanding why you might find controllingness or manipulative patterns or things that you're doing in your own life. And this can be like in very subtle doses. Sometimes I notice that people please, and we could even say people pleasing is a form of manipulation, to try to get your needs met or to try to, feel worthy and to get, connection or affirmation. We can look at a very broad spectrum here of what's manipulation in a very unhealthy way and what's sort of a normal human amount of manipulation. So that should be something, if you're doing, that you want to change and create healing around. So for this video itself, I'm just going to talk about a little bit of control and manipulation because they sort of have the same underlying root causes. So control and manipulation are both rooted in fear, and they're most often associated with the fear of vulnerability. So people control or manipulate when they are not willing to express what they're feeling, what they need, and why they need it. Okay, so if you can imagine you think of like a mother who's a little bit controlling. Maybe she's trying to control, how late you stay out at night, and she's trying to, let's say you had this experience like in childhood or early adulthood, like your teens or something. Let's say that this was your experience. A lot of times, just as an analogy here, that mother was like afraid of something bad happening, was afraid of, losing you, afraid of you disconnecting in some way, and, doing drugs or going down a bad path and losing a relationship to her. Like, if she became hyper controlling in a certain area, chances are she was really afraid of something bad happening. So a lot of us growing up, we have really negative associations built into expressing our fears or vulnerabilities. We don't have a lot of positive reinforcement when we're children and we're like, Mom, I want to go play. I want to go do this. I want to, stay up still. Usually mom or dad are not giving us our needs, and they have to do that to a certain degree to socialize us and to take care of us. We have to get punished if we run across the street without looking both ways because, we don't have to get punished. We actually have to get the consequences shown to us. Like, we have to learn and work through these things for ideally in a conscious way. But a lot of us got punished because our parents didn't have better tools or strategies at the time. And there is something now called conscious conditioning, but that's a topic for another video. So a lot of us got punished and we didn't get our needs reinforced, and speaking up and being vulnerable didn't feel good because more often than not, we didn't have positive associations built in. Often we got denied, rejected, unseen, unheard. And so we learned that it doesn't feel good to talk about my feelings, and it doesn't feel good to express my needs, and it doesn't even work very well. It often ends up in rejection. So a lot of us have this massive part of us that's just repressed in terms of connecting to our own feelings and needs on a regular basis, knowing what they are in real time, which is the goal of what you want to get to, and then expressing them in a healthy way that's orchestrated carefully enough that it bypasses what could often trigger other people, so that we have the highest chance of actually getting the need met. So what this often is, control and manipulation, it's just related to in childhood not getting these needs met or just having really negative associations built in. They're a little bit more extreme. And so what happens is when we don't want to be vulnerable, let's say there's a child, and let's say this child, their needs, let's say they grew up in a really unhealthy home, one parent's an addict, another parent's violent, and like this child is terrified or horrified, though, of expressing their needs or being hurt or rejected because they might have experienced a lot of that. What happens is that child probably isn't going to be like, hey mom, can I have this? Or hey dad, can I do that? Like, that child is going to feel like it's so unavailable, to have their needs met, and yet those needs don't go anywhere. Needs don't they don't get repressed and then stay repressed. They come out in other forms, or we try to get them met in other ways. Our subconscious mind is like wired. It's like a needs meeting machine. It's always trying to get our needs met. So if we don't have better strategies, if all of our healthy potential strategies are deeply negatively reinforced, then a child might learn to manipulate and go around in these roundabout ways as sort of a survival strategy to adapt to the crazy environment and still find a way of getting the needs met. So manipulation and control become a program. And so I want you to know as well, not every person with unmet needs manipulates to get them. But all people with a strategy of manipulation do deeply believe on some level that their needs are unworthy, bad, or hopeless, and they'll be rejected. So it's important to just recognize that. I think that anything that we demonize as human beings, as a general rule, is something that like creates more separation between ourselves and other people. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But so just to reiterate again too, like we're not responsible for fixing other people, okay, period. But I do see sometimes that individuals are like stuck in a relationship, and I don't think anybody's actually stuck in a relationship. I think that that's usually the invisible prison of our mind, like we tell ourselves, but people do have real problems where they see way more benefits to staying in an unhealthy relationship dynamic than to leaving. And this can be for religious reasons and deeply rooted beliefs. It can be for not being able to afford your kids and your home and all of this, living on your own. And so if you are stuck in this situation, I'm going to give you some tools. And again, it's not your job to change a person, but it is your job to do for yourself what is necessary to get your needs met and expressed in a healthy, non-violent format. Okay? So I'm going to give you a framework that will work if you're with somebody who's relatively healthy, who just has these unhealthy tendencies here and there. And this is something to check in with yourself as well. But if you're with somebody who's incessantly controlling and incessantly manipulating, you're probably dealing with somebody who's emotionally very unstable and toxic, and you really should be considering getting as far away from that relationship as possible and leaving. So often too, we think like we have to stay for the kids. I hear this so often from individuals, and the reality is that it's much better to give the kids a version of your best self when you're not, in this terrible relationship, and to take them out of a toxic environment, because chances are if you have a partner who's very manipulating and very unhealthy, then they're getting some of that same manipulation and control, and that's going to be very detrimental to them as well. So it's often better to give your kids a divorce and have them go through that, as painful as that can be, than to stay in a really toxic environment. When you see somebody being manipulative, or let's just start with controlling. Let's say you see somebody being controlling. One of the most important questions you can ask this person is, what are you feeling right now, and what is it that you're needing? Because again, people control when they don't want to say what they're feeling and needing. And it would be super helpful. You can follow this up by saying, it would be super helpful if I can understand what's happening inside of you right now to cause you to behave this way. And I understand as a person, sorry, I might have to sneeze. I understand that this isn't necessarily going to work with everybody. This isn't going to necessarily work with these 10 out of 10 toxic people. But for the average person with a little bit of room to grow and somebody who's healthy, this does work extremely well. So let's just use a few examples. It might be day-to-day examples. Let's say your girlfriend doesn't want you to go out. Maybe she's, saying, no, I don't want you to go with your friends. I don't like your friends. Things that are like a little bit controlling, and we're getting some red flags here. But, number one, if this is in extremes and it's not just a vulnerable moment and she's, having this one bad day, and if this is extreme, again, maybe you should think about getting out of the relationship. But if you can open this dynamic of conversation and say, like, what are you feeling right now? And why are you trying to control the dynamic of the situation? What are you needing that would make my needs of going out and doing something with my friends easier for you? Okay, so see what I just did? We used that framework of what are you feeling and what are you needing, and we substituted into this specific situation. And you might hear, and these are the things I hear. I'm afraid of losing you. I'm afraid of, a lot of young women saw a bad situation between their parents, a parent cheated, or, things like that. And they project that onto their relationships. And so maybe she might say, I'm afraid of losing you. Okay, like, I'll be open to you going out, and I just need you to validate. And I just need to know that I can trust you. And again, if you can just reinforce that would be really helpful. And again, we're not here justifying people's control or manipulation. I know I'm like overdoing it by saying this so often, but I just want you to notice that, like, oftentimes there's just fear, there's just innocence and woundedness behind the unhealthy and toxic strategy. And I'm not saying the person's innocent, I'm saying it's coming from a very childlike space, like some fragmented, wounded part of that psyche of that individual. So let's say one I saw not too long ago is somebody was telling me that their son was lying about the bills at school that were owed to get more money. And the mother was furious. She was really upset. And I said, like, just have the conversation first, because, pain doesn't solve pain. Somebody said that to me the other day. And it was a beautiful thing in a webinar. Somebody named Ruby said this to me the other day in a webinar that I was doing. And it's such a beautiful quote. And it's true. Like, punishment is like trying to solve a problem at the same level of thinking that created it. We know this Einstein quote. And so punishment, when somebody's doing something out of pain, you're just adding more fuel to the fire. You're not allowing yourself to get to the root and understand what's really going on. So we brought up this conversation, and I said, just ask what's going on, why, what is he feeling, and why was he doing that in the first place? What need was he trying to get met? And he opened up his mom and he said, I felt like I had this new girlfriend, and I felt like all my friends had girlfriends, and I finally had my first girlfriend. And I went out to dinner, and I had to split the meal because I couldn't afford to pay for her meal, and she shamed me, and she made fun of me, and she told my friends, and then they made fun of me, and like I was feeling really embarrassed. And then it becomes like a healthy conversation. Like what they ended up doing was creating a plan. The mother was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to help you financially and give you a certain amount of money, more per semester. I think she was giving him a little bit of money for food while he was in school. And she said, okay, well, we'll up this so that you have a little bit of money to do things like this, but we're going to have a repayment plan every summer. You're going to come back and you're going to work, extra hours if you have to repay me in the summer, and then we'll go back again. And this could take so many different forms. You could be helping this person apply for jobs. You could, do all these different things. Now, accountability, this is the second part of this. Accountability on behalf of the other person has to be a conversation, right? You then have to, it's not just, hey, let me fix it. All good. Don't worry. Everything's fine. It's, okay, I understand you, and let's work with the root cause here so we can address that problem. And then let's also make sure that I am very clear as the person receiving the manipulation or the control to say, this is non-negotiable. I can understand why you did what you did, why you feel that way. I can validate why you behave that way. I cannot hold space for again. So I'm happy to tell you that I can connect this. I can work with you to solve the root problem, but this behavior is not welcome again. This is a non-negotiable. So remember this discussion. I'm not letting you know this is okay ever again. So we want to have those two parts where we ask the person, what are you feeling and what are you needing? And this really works well. Those are like sort of manipulative examples. Well, the second one is the son manipulating, kind of lying about the bills at school. But the first one is like the controlling. And a lot of times people are controlling in very small ways, controlling about time, controlling about, little things, just how you behave in a certain way, just these little tendencies that human beings have. And we want to open that dynamic of conversation there. Like, hey, if you didn't notice, I feel like you're being a bit controlling. Why don't you just tell me instead what you're feeling, what you're needing right now? And again, if this is you and you notice that you have controlling tendencies, you nag a lot, you nitpick, you shame a little bit, you can be controlling when you feel stressed out, just know this is rooted in fear. And it's a lack of you being vulnerable shows up as control. So you want to ask yourself, okay, what am I feeling? What am I needing? And how can I start expressing these things more vulnerably to other individuals? And when we look at other people and we demonize them before understanding them, we're also doing an injustice to ourselves, because we're filling our own hearts with more fear, and we're creating further separation between ourselves and the world, because we start thinking, oh my gosh, people can't be trusted. The world's a scary place. Everybody's out. We get into this victim mentality a lot of times. So we want to seek to understand the root causes of problems instead of demonizing the things that we see. And yet, we want to be really firm and clear about setting our boundaries at the same time, okay? And again, this does not mean staying with a person who's unhealthy. This is for like minor issues in relationships where somebody's a little controlling or rigid sometimes, or you notice that they manipulated about something the other day and you haven't seen them do that before, but they're doing it now, and you want to make sure that this is not happening again. Okay, so those are some skills and tools for that aspect. Now, if you're recovering, and maybe I'll do a separate video on this. If you want me to do a separate video on this in a lot more detail, please let me know in the comments. But if you're recovering from a relationship where there was a lot of manipulation and control, number one, you want to make sure you set a boundary where this person does not come back into your life. Sometimes they can try to infiltrate and it can be hard to set that boundary. You know, sometimes people can be so charming or so charismatic and flip things around so much and make us question ourselves that we can get a little bit lost in the mix. But if you went through a lot of manipulation and control, and somebody, you know, that's part of their personality and that's something that's showing up all the time, unless they're doing a very significant amount of work and therapy over the course of months and months, if not years, there's no way that this person is ready for a healthy relationship. So just if that's what you went through, it's the point of no return, and I hope that that's really clear. But if you're recovering, you know, the biggest loss that comes, the biggest sort of grief or grievance, I think, that comes from hyper manipulation and control is that the individual tends to lose their sense of identity, and there's a major diminishment of their worth. And why do they lose their sense of identity? Because their needs are so unmet and they become so consumed with meeting this manipulative or controlling person's needs a lot of the time. You know, again, if they were in this relationship for a long time and it was extensive, that their needs go out the window. And our personality is so deeply constructed around our needs. And I have this whole course around this about our like personality needs. But when we are disconnected from our own needs, it's like we're essentially disconnected from our sense of self. And so that's a huge loss, is that sense of identity. And then the diminishment of worth. You know, oftentimes people who are quite manipulative and quite controlling will do a big, you know, will do a lot of damage on your self-worth. There's a lot of you're not good enough. So we want to address this. I'm just going to do this in like a really short version here. We want to address this by reprogramming our feelings of unworthiness. So we want to look for how we are worthy and how we are good enough repetitively. And we want to find like very specific experiences that elicits an emotional response repetitively over time. This is one like really simple tool for reprogramming, because we're reprogrammed through repetition plus emotion. Your self-worth was taken away through repetition that elicited an emotional response of how you're not good enough, how you're unworthy. And then we have to start showing up for ourselves in our behaviors to show that we do matter, you know, to set those boundaries, to express our feelings and needs, to take time out for ourselves, to listen to ourselves, to build self-trust. Like all of these things impact our self-worth as well. And we want to do reprogramming work around that. I have another video that like talks about reprogramming a little bit more. And I have courses that go way in depth here. But you also want to understand your feelings and needs, because you'll have disconnected so much from them that you want to start doing feelings and needs journaling on a daily basis. I do have like just on a simple basis our tertiary needs. We have like personality needs, we have tertiary needs, and we have our basic core human needs. And I do have on the Personal Development School website like a free worksheet right now that's just open and available. If you click on literature, it's there. And it's your feelings and needs worksheet. So you know, you can start getting in touch by just journaling and checking through that worksheet and looking for, you know, what are my feelings throughout the day? What are my needs? And really getting in touch with them again, because that really creates that sense of identity. And what our boundaries are is essentially the expression of our feelings and needs. And so in order to create healthy boundaries, we need to know what our feelings and needs are, especially in real time as much as possible. We need to get reconnected to those aspects of ourselves again. And last thing, on the self-trust note, you really want to make sure that you are showing up for yourself again. You're taking your interests into account and you're congruent about doing this, because trust is so much based on congruency. If I say to you, you know, every time, let's say you come to my office and every time you come, I'm like, I'll get you a coffee, and then I never do. You might trust me in some ways, but you're not going to trust me to get you a coffee, because what I say and what I do are very incongruent. And so what we say to ourselves, what we say we're going to commit to doing within ourselves, we have to follow those up with action so that we start to build trust in the relationship to self again, because coming out of a lot of control and manipulation tends to really have a strong negative impact on our sense of identity, sense of self-trust, and sense of self-worth. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I think that's everything that I'm going to share in this video. But please check out all the courses we have coming out. Please stay connected. Thank you all so much again, just for like your comments, your likes, your shares, just all the connection that's on here. It's so wonderful and so appreciated. Thank you.